The ship landed on planet Sarah with a loud hiss. Kang Tae-ho stood up from his seat and looked through the small window. The sky was purple here. The trees were silver. Everything looked wrong, but he was a soldier. He had seen worse things than purple skies. He was 32 years old. His black hair was cut short in military style. His face was calm, showing nothing. This was how he always looked. People said he had no emotions, but they were wrong. He just kept them deep inside where no one could see. A voice came through the speaker. "Human delegate, please exit the ship. Your escort is waiting." Tae-ho picked up his small bag. He did not bring many things. Soldiers learned to travel light. He walked down the ramp and stepped onto alien ground for the first time in his life. 4 Novan guards stood waiting for him. They were tall, almost 7 feet. Their skin was pale blue and their eyes were large and golden. They looked at Tae-ho like he was an insect, something small and unimportant. "Follow us, human," one of them said. His voice was cold. Tae-ho followed without a word. He was used to people looking down on him. It did not bother him anymore. The Novan Imperial Palace was huge. The walls were made of white stone that seemed to glow from inside. Everything was beautiful and cold, like a museum where no one was allowed to touch anything. Tae-ho walked through long hallways, his boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. Finally, they reached a large door. A Novan official stood there holding a tablet. "You are Kang Tae-ho," the official said. It was not a question. "You have been assigned to guard Princess Vela, daughter of Queen Isara." Tae-ho nodded. "Yes. The princess is 6 years old in human terms. She is not important to politics. She has no power. This assignment is symbolic only." The official looked at him with something like pity. "Do you understand what this means?" Tae-ho understood perfectly. He was being given the most useless job they could find, guarding a child who did not matter. It was an insult wrapped in polite words. "I understand," he said. The official seemed surprised that Tae-ho did not argue or complain. "Very well, you will start immediately." The door opened, and Tae-ho stepped into the princess's wing of the palace. The rooms here were different. There were toys on the floor. Colorful paintings hung on the walls. It looked like a place where a child actually lived. But the child herself was nowhere to be seen. A Novan servant approached him. "The princess is in her bedroom. She has been told about you." The servant paused. "She is not happy." Tae-ho walked to the bedroom door. He could hear small sounds inside, movement, breathing. He knocked gently. "Princess Vela, my name is Kang Tae-ho. I am your new guard." Silence. Then a small voice screamed from inside. "Go away! Go away! I do not want a human! Humans eat children! Mother told me!" Tae-ho stood very still. He had not expected this. He thought about what to do, then made a decision. He sat down on the floor outside her door, his back against the wall. "I will wait here," he said calmly. "I will not come inside until you are ready." Hours passed. Tae-ho did not move. Servants walked by and stared at him. Some laughed quietly. The Novan guards shook their heads in disbelief. A human, sitting on the floor like a dog waiting for its master. But Tae-ho did not care what they thought. He had learned patience long ago. In war, patience kept you alive. In peace, it kept you sane. The next day was the same, and the day after that. Tae-ho arrived at his post every morning. He sat outside Vela's door. He did not try to force his way in. He did not beg or plead. He simply waited. On the 4th day, the door opened a tiny crack. One golden eye looked out at him. Tae-ho did not move. He did not smile. He just looked back at her calmly. The door slammed shut. But the next morning, it opened again. This time, a small crystal orb flew out and hit Tae-ho directly on the forehead. The sharp edge cut his skin. Blood ran down his face. The orb was about to hit the floor and shatter. Taeho's hand moved fast, catching it before it could break. He looked at the beautiful object in his hand, then wiped the blood from his face with his sleeve. The door was still open a crack. He could see her watching him, waiting for his reaction, waiting for him to get angry, to yell, to prove that humans were the monsters she believed them to be. Taeho stood up slowly. He walked to her door and placed the orb gently on the floor where she could reach it. "That looked important," he said. His voice was soft and calm. "You should be more careful with your things." Then he returned to his spot against the wall and sat back down. Princess Vela stared at him. She was a small thing, with pale blue skin like all Novans. Her silver hair was messy. Her golden eyes were wide with confusion. No one had ever reacted to her tantrums like this before. When she threw things, people got angry. They yelled. They called her a spoiled child. This human just gave her toy back and told her to be careful. She did not know what to think. The door closed again, but this time it was slow. Not a slam, just a quiet click. That night, Taeho returned to his small room in the servants' area. It was tiny and cold. The Novans had not given him a proper bed, just a thin mat on the floor. He did not complain. He had slept in worse places during the war. He lay down and stared at the ceiling. His forehead still hurt from where the orb had cut him. He touched the small wound and smiled a little. She had fire in her. That was good. Fire meant she was not broken. Fire meant she would survive. He thought about his brother. His little brother who had died in the war 3 years ago. He had been only 19. Taeho was supposed to protect him. He had failed. The guilt never went away. It lived inside him like a second heartbeat, always there, always reminding him. But maybe this was a chance. Not to replace his brother. Nothing could do that. But maybe a chance to protect someone else. To do what he could not do before. The next morning, Taeho returned to his post outside Vela's door. The Novan guards smirked at him as he passed. "Still here, human?" one of them said. "She will never accept you. You are wasting your time." Taeho looked at the guard calmly. "Time is mine to waste." He sat down in his usual spot. He waited. Inside the room, Princess Vela sat by her door, listening. She could hear him settle into position. She could hear his calm breathing through the crack under the door. She picked up the crystal orb from where she had put it. There was still a tiny bit of his blood on it. She had not cleaned it off. She did not know why she had kept it that way. She did not know why she was already waiting for his footsteps every morning. She only knew that the human was strange, different from what she had been told. And for the first time in her young life, Princess Vela was curious about something she had been taught to fear. 3 weeks passed since Kang Tae-ho arrived at the palace. Things were slowly changing. Princess Vela still did not talk to him directly. But she had stopped throwing things. She had stopped screaming when he came near. Now she just watched him with her big golden eyes, like a small animal trying to decide if he was dangerous or not. Taeho noticed everything about her. He learned her daily routine. He knew she woke up early before the servants came. He knew she hated her math lessons but loved learning about stars. He knew she had a secret spot in the garden where she hid when her tutors annoyed her. He never said anything about these things. He just watched and remembered. The other guards thought he was foolish. They stood at their posts, stiff and proud, looking important. Taeho sat on the floor. He walked behind the princess at a respectful distance. He made himself small and quiet. "The human has no pride," the guards said to each other. "Look at him, following that child around like a pet." Taeho heard them. He did not care. One afternoon, Vela was in the garden, hiding in her secret spot behind the silver trees. Her tutors were looking for her, calling her name with frustrated voices. Tae-ho knew exactly where she was. He had known for days. A servant approached him. "Guard, the princess is missing. Help us search." Tae-ho shook his head. "She is not missing. She is safe." "Then where is she?" "She does not want to be found right now. She will come out when she is ready." The servant looked shocked. "You cannot just let her hide. She has lessons." Tae-ho looked at the servant calmly. "She is a child. Children need to play sometimes. She will learn better if she is not forced." The servant walked away, angry and confused. 30 minutes later, Vela came out of hiding on her own. She walked past Tae-ho and stopped. "You knew where I was," she said. It was the first time she had spoken to him directly in weeks. "Yes." "Why did you not tell them?" Tae-ho thought about this. "Because you needed a break. Everyone needs a break sometimes." Vela stared at him for a long moment. Then she walked away without another word. But Tae-ho saw something new in her eyes. Something like respect. That night, a massive storm hit the planet. Tae-ho had never seen anything like it. The sky turned black and green. Lightning split the clouds every few seconds. The thunder was so loud it shook the walls. The palace lights went out. Emergency systems turned on, casting everything in dim red light. Servants ran through the halls, trying to secure the windows. The Novan guards retreated to the protected inner rooms, following safety rules. Tae-ho ran toward Vela's chambers. He found her door closed and locked. Her servants had already gone to shelter. She was alone. He knocked. "Princess, are you all right?" No answer, but he could hear something, a small sound, crying. He tried the door. Locked. He thought for a moment, then made a decision. He used his shoulder to break the lock. The door flew open. The room was dark. Lightning flashed outside the windows, making strange shadows jump across the walls. Tae-ho looked around and saw a small shape under the bed. Vela was curled up in a ball, her hands over her ears. She was shaking. Tears ran down her blue cheeks. She looked tiny and terrified. Tae-ho's heart hurt seeing her like this. He remembered his brother during their first battle. The same fear, the same shaking. He did not rush to her. He did not grab her or pull her out. Instead, he sat down on the floor, putting his back against the bed, close enough that she could see him but not touching her. "It is just a storm," he said quietly. "The thunder is loud, but it cannot hurt you. You are safe." Vela did not answer. She kept crying. Tae-ho thought about what to do. Then he remembered something. A song his mother used to sing when he was scared as a child. A simple Korean lullaby about the moon and stars. He began to hum, soft and low. The melody was gentle, nothing like the violence outside. At first, Vela did not react, but slowly her crying became quieter. Her shaking slowed down. She uncovered her ears to listen. Tae-ho kept humming. The storm raged outside, but inside this room there was only his voice and the simple tune. After a long time, Vela crawled out from under the bed. She sat beside him, her small shoulder almost touching his arm. She did not look at him. She just sat there, listening. "What is that song?" she asked. Her voice was rough from crying. "A lullaby from my planet. My mother sang it to me when I was small." "What do the words mean?" "They mean the moon is watching over you, and the stars are your friends. They mean you are never alone in the dark." Vela was quiet for a moment. "That is a nice meaning." "Yes, it is." The storm continued for hours. At some point, Vela fell asleep sitting next to him. Her head dropped onto his shoulder. She was so light, so small. Tae-ho did not move. He stayed perfectly still, letting her sleep. When the storm finally ended and the lights came back on, the servants found them there. A human guard sitting on the floor. The princess of the Novan Empire sleeping peacefully against him. No one knew what to say. After that night, everything changed between them. Vela started talking to Tae-ho. Small things at first. Questions about Earth. Questions about humans. Why did they have such small eyes? Why was their skin that color? Why did they eat so often? Tae-ho answered every question patiently. He told her about Earth's blue sky and green trees. He told her about oceans and mountains. He told her about his family, his mother's cooking, his brother's laugh. When he talked about his brother, his voice changed. Vela noticed but did not ask. She was young, but she understood that some things were too painful to explain. In return, Vela taught him Novan words. She laughed at his pronunciation. No, no, you say it like this. She would make him repeat words over and over until he got them right. Tae-ho did not mind. Her laughter was the best sound he had heard in years. One day, Vela came to him with her hands behind her back. Her face was serious. I made something for you, she said. She held out a small bracelet. It was woven from silver threads, clumsy and uneven, clearly made by a child's hands. In my culture, we give these to family, she said. Her voice was nervous. You are not my real family. But you feel like family. Is that strange? Tae-ho took the bracelet carefully. His hands were bigger than her whole head, but he handled the small thing like it was made of glass. It is not strange, he said. His voice was thick. Thank you, Princess. You can call me Vela, she said. Family does not use titles. Tae-ho put the bracelet on his wrist. It was a little tight, but he did not care. Thank you, Vela. She smiled. A real smile, the first one he had ever seen from her. The Novan court noticed the bracelet immediately. Whispers spread through the palace like fire. A princess giving a family bracelet to a human? It was a scandal, an outrage. Queen Azara heard the news in her throne room. Her advisors expected her to be angry. They expected her to punish the human for getting too close to her daughter. But the queen said nothing. She simply looked at the report for a long moment, then put it aside. Leave it, she said. But your majesty, the court is talking. The nobles are upset. This human is overstepping his place. I said leave it. The advisors went silent. They did not understand. But they obeyed. That night, Queen Azara stood at her window, looking down at the garden. She could see her daughter playing there, the human guard sitting nearby, watching her with patient eyes. She saw Vela run to him and show him a flower she had found. She saw the human lean down to look at it, saying something that made her daughter laugh. The queen's face showed nothing, but something moved behind her golden eyes, something she had not felt in a long time. She turned away from the window and returned to her work. But she did not forget what she had seen. Lord Keth stood in his dark chambers, speaking to shadows. 3 figures knelt before him, their faces hidden behind black masks. They were mercenaries, the best money could buy. The target is the princess, Keth said. His voice was cold like ice. Kill her during the festival, make it look like the human did it. And the human guard, one mercenary asked. Kill him too, but make sure his body is found with blood on his hands. I want the court to believe he went mad. I want them to believe humans are animals who cannot be trusted. The mercenaries nodded. They did not care about politics. They only cared about gold. The paralysis gas will take care of the Novan guards, Keth continued. It works on our species within seconds. The human might resist longer because of his different body, but he is just one man against 6 of you. He will not survive. Lord Keth smiled. He had wanted the throne for 20 years. The queen had no other children. If Vela died, the line of succession would fall to the noble houses. And Keth's house was the strongest. Do not fail me, he said. The mercenaries disappeared into the night. The Festival of Stars was the biggest celebration of the year. The entire palace was decorated with lights. Music filled the air. Nobles danced in the great hall while servants carried food and drinks on silver trays. Tejo stood near the edge of the room, watching Vela. She was dressed in a beautiful white gown, her silver hair decorated with tiny gems. She looked like a small star herself. She caught his eye across the room and waved. He nodded back, a tiny smile on his lips. "The human and his pet princess," a noblewoman said nearby, loud enough for Tejo to hear. "How disgusting!" Tejo ignored her. He had heard worse things in his life. The night went on. Vela danced with other noble children. She ate too many sweets. She laughed and played. Tejo watched it all, happy to see her happy. Around midnight, Vela got tired. A servant came to take her to bed. Tejo followed at a distance, as always. But something felt wrong. Tejo could not explain it. It was a feeling in his gut, a soldier's instinct. He had felt it before, in the war, right before an ambush. He looked around. The hallways were empty. The guards were all at the festival. Everything looked normal, but his heart was beating fast. They reached Vela's chambers. The servant helped her change into sleeping clothes and put her to bed. Tejo stood outside the door, his eyes scanning the darkness. Then he heard it, a soft sound, like air escaping from a pipe. His eyes started to feel heavy, his head became dizzy. Gas. Someone was pumping gas into the hallway. Tejo held his breath and ran. He grabbed a cloth from his pocket and covered his nose and mouth. The gas burned his eyes, but he forced himself to stay awake. He had to reach Vela. He kicked open her door and rushed inside. The room was filling with gas, too, coming from the vents. Vela was lying in her bed, unconscious. The gas had already knocked her out. Tejo picked her up. She was so light in his arms. He ran to the window and smashed it with his elbow. Fresh air rushed in. He stuck his head out and breathed deeply, trying to clear his lungs. That was when he heard footsteps behind him. He turned. 6 figures stood in the doorway, black clothes, black masks, weapons in their hands. "Put down the princess," one of them said. "Make it easy. Die quick." Tejo put Vela gently on the floor behind him. He stood up and faced the mercenaries. He had no gun. His only weapon was a ceremonial blade at his belt. It was meant for decoration, not combat. "You will have to go through me," he said. The mercenaries laughed. "Stupid human, you are already dead. You just do not know it yet." The first one attacked. Fast. Professional. But Tejo was faster. He ducked under the strike and drove his blade into the mercenary's throat. Blood sprayed hot and red. The body fell. The others attacked together. Tejo moved like water, flowing between their strikes. He was not as strong as them, not as big, but he had something they did not have. He had fought in a war. He had killed before. He knew how to survive when death was certain. He killed the second one with a strike to the heart. The third one cut his arm, but he ignored the pain and broke the mercenary's neck with his bare hands. 3 down. 3 left. But he was getting tired. The gas was still affecting him. His movements were slowing. The 4th mercenary slashed his ribs. Deep. Tejo felt his blood pouring out. He fell to one knee. No, he could not fall. Vela was behind him. If he fell, she would die. He thought of his brother. He thought of the promise he made to himself. Never again. He would never let someone he cared about die because he was not strong enough. He stood up. The mercenaries looked at him in shock. No human should be able to stand with that wound. "What are you?" one of them whispered. Tejo did not answer. He attacked. He killed the 4th mercenary with a strike to the eyes. The 5th one stabbed his shoulder, but Tejo grabbed the blade with his bare hand and pulled the mercenary close, then twisted his neck. 1 left. The last mercenary was different, bigger, stronger. He carried a plasma blade that glowed with deadly energy. "You are impressive," the mercenary said, "but you are dying. Look at yourself." Tae-ho looked down. His clothes were soaked with blood. His own blood. He could feel his life draining away, but he could still fight. As long as his heart was beating, he could still fight. They clashed. The plasma blade cut his back, burning through flesh and muscle. Tae-ho screamed in pain but did not stop. He drove his knife into the mercenary's chest again and again until the body stopped moving. Then there was silence. Tae-ho stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by 6 dead bodies. His blood was pooling on the floor. His vision was going dark. He heard a small sound behind him. Vela was waking up. The fresh air from the broken window had cleared the gas. "Tae-ho?" Her voice was scared, confused. He turned to look at her. He tried to smile, but it came out wrong. "You are safe," he said. "I kept you safe." Then his legs gave out. He fell to the floor. Vela screamed his name. She ran to him, her small hands pressing against his wounds, trying to stop the bleeding. "No, no, no," she cried. "You cannot die. I did not give you permission. You are not allowed to die." Tae-ho looked up at her. Her face was blurry. He could barely see her, but he could feel her hands on his chest, warm and desperate. "Okay," he whispered. "I will not die then. You are the princess. I have to listen to you." His eyes closed. The royal guards arrived 5 minutes later. They found the princess covered in human blood, holding an unconscious man in her arms, screaming for help. Around them lay 6 dead mercenaries, killed by a single human with a knife. The guards did not believe what they were seeing. It was impossible. No human could do this. But the bodies were there. The proof was there. And the man who had done it all was barely breathing, holding on to life by a thread so thin it could break at any moment. "Save him!" Vela screamed at the guards. "Save him or I will never forgive you. I will never forgive any of you." The guards moved fast. They called for doctors. They carried Tae-ho to the medical wing, and Princess Vela followed, refusing to let go of his hand, refusing to leave his side, even when the doctors told her to wait outside. "He is my family," she said. "I am not leaving him." No one had the courage to argue with her. The medical wing was quiet except for the soft beeping of machines. Kang Tae-ho lay on a white bed, his body wrapped in bandages. He had not woken up for 3 days. The Novan doctors had done everything they could. But human bodies were different from Novan bodies. They did not know how to heal him properly. His wounds kept bleeding. His fever kept rising. He was dying, slowly, and they could not stop it. Princess Vela had not left his side since the attack. She sat in a chair next to his bed, holding his hand. Her eyes were red from crying. She had not eaten properly. She had not slept. The servants begged her to rest. She refused. "I will not leave him," she said again and again. "He did not leave me. I will not leave him." On the 4th day, Queen Asara did something that shocked the entire court. She sent a message to the human embassy. She asked for human doctors to come to the palace. No Novan ruler had ever asked humans for help. It was seen as admitting weakness. The nobles were furious. "Your Majesty, this is madness," one advisor said. "Asking primitives to enter the royal medical wing? It will destroy our reputation." Queen Asara looked at him with cold eyes. "My daughter has not eaten in 3 days. She has not slept. She is watching a man die, and she blames herself because he was protecting her. If human doctors can save him, I do not care about reputation." The advisor went silent. 2 human doctors arrived the next morning. They were nervous. No human had ever been invited to the inner palace before. They expected to be treated like criminals. Instead, Queen Izara met them personally. She led them to the medical wing herself. "Save him," she said. "Use whatever you need. I will provide it." The human doctors looked at Tae-ho. They understood immediately what was wrong. The Novan medicines were fighting his human immune system. His body was rejecting the treatment. "We need human blood," one doctor said, "and human medicines. We brought some supplies, but we will need more." "It will be done," the Queen said. For the next week, the human doctors worked day and night. They gave Tai-Ho blood transfusions. They cleaned his wounds with human medicines. They fought for his life with everything they had. Vela watched it all. She held Tai-Ho's hand while they worked. She talked to him, even though he could not hear. "You have to wake up," she told him. "You have to see Earth's blue sky. You promised to show me pictures. You promised to teach me more Korean words. You cannot break your promises." On the 8th day, Tai-Ho opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was Vela's face. She looked terrible, thin and tired. But when she saw his eyes open, she smiled like the sun coming out after a storm. "You are awake," she whispered. "You are awake. You are awake. You are awake." Tai-Ho tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Vela grabbed a cup of water and helped him drink. "How long?" he asked. His voice was rough. 8 days. The doctors say you almost died 7 times. Your heart stopped twice." Her eyes filled with tears. "I thought I lost you." Tai-Ho reached up with his weak hand and wiped her tears. "I told you. You ordered me not to die. I had to listen." Vela laughed and cried at the same time. She put her head on his chest, careful not to hurt his wounds, and sobbed. All the fear and pain of the past week came pouring out. Tai-Ho put his hand on her head and let her cry. He did not say anything. Sometimes words were not needed. The news spread through the palace. The human had survived. Against all odds, against all logic, he was alive. And then the investigation results came. Lord Keth was arrested. The evidence was clear. The mercenaries had been hired with his money. The gas had come from his private laboratory. Everything pointed to him. The Queen was furious. A noble of her own court had tried to kill her daughter, had nearly killed the only person who truly cared about Vela's safety. Keth's trial lasted 1 day. He was found guilty and executed by sunset. But the Queen's anger did not fade. She visited the medical wing that night, alone, when she thought no one was watching. Tai-Ho was awake. He saw her standing in the doorway, her tall figure casting a shadow across his bed. "Your Majesty," he said, trying to sit up. "Do not move," she said. Her voice was cold, but not unkind. "You will open your wounds again." She walked to his bedside and looked down at him. For a long moment, she said nothing. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why did you fight so hard? She is not your child. She is not your species. You could have run. You could have saved yourself." Tai-Ho thought about the question. It was a good question. Why had he fought? Why had he been willing to die for a child he had only known for a few months? "She reminds me of my brother," he said quietly. "He was young like her, innocent like her. I was supposed to protect him, but I failed. He died because I was not strong enough." He looked at the Queen with honest eyes. "I could not save him, but I could save her. So I did." The Queen was silent for a long time. Her face showed nothing, but something changed in her eyes. Something softened. "Humans are strange," she said finally. "Your lives are so short. You die so easily. And yet you love so deeply. You give everything for people who are not even your own blood." She paused. "I did not understand it before. I think I am beginning to understand now." She turned and walked to the door. Then she stopped. "My daughter chose you," she said without looking back. "She gave you a family bracelet. In our culture, that is a bond that cannot be broken." She paused. Perhaps she was wiser than all of us. Then she was gone. 2 weeks later, Commander Yoon Hana arrived at the palace. She was Tai-Ho's superior officer from Earth's military, a stern woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. She met with Tae-ho in the medical wing. He was sitting up now, getting stronger every day. "You look terrible," she said. "Thank you, Commander. I feel terrible." She allowed herself a small smile. "The brass is impressed. You killed 6 professional mercenaries with a decorative knife. That is going in the history books." Tae-ho shook his head. "I did what I had to do." "Yes, you did." Hana sat down next to his bed. "Which brings me to why I am here. Your assignment is complete. The diplomatic exchange period is over. You are scheduled to return to Earth next week." Tae-ho felt something tighten in his chest. Return to Earth. Leave Vela. Leave the first person who had made him feel like he had a purpose since his brother died. "I understand," he said. His voice was flat. Before Hana could respond, the door burst open. Princess Vela ran into the room, her face red and wet with tears. "No!" she screamed. "He is not going! You cannot take him!" Hana stood up, surprised. "Princess, this is a military matter. Your guard's assignment has ended." "I do not care!" Vela grabbed Tae-ho's arm and held on tight. "He is mine! He is my family! You cannot just take family away!" Hana looked at Tae-ho. He looked back at her. Neither of them knew what to say. Vela turned and ran out of the room. Hana could hear her footsteps echoing down the hallway, running toward the throne room, running toward her mother. "Well," Hana said slowly, "this is going to be interesting." Tae-ho lay back on his pillow and closed his eyes. He did not know what would happen next. He did not know if he would stay or go. But somewhere deep in his heart, a small hope was growing. A hope that maybe, just maybe, he had finally found a place where he belonged. The throne room was filled with people, nobles in expensive robes, military commanders in their finest uniforms, ambassadors from a dozen worlds. Everyone who mattered in the Novan Empire was there. Earth's diplomatic team stood in the corner, nervous and confused. They had been summoned without explanation. Commander Yoon Hana stood with them, her face calm, but her eyes alert. In the center of the room, Kang Tae-ho knelt before the throne. His wounds were still healing. Moving was painful. But he had been summoned by the Queen, and he could not refuse. Princess Vela stood beside her mother's throne. Her eyes were red from crying, but her chin was raised high. She had begged her mother for hours. She had screamed and cried and refused to eat. And finally her mother had listened. Now they would see if it had been enough. Queen Izara rose from her throne. The room went completely silent. No one even breathed. 3 months ago, the Queen began, a human was assigned to guard my daughter. It was meant as an insult, a meaningless task for a meaningless species. We thought humans were primitives, short-lived, weak, emotional. We thought they were beneath us. She paused, letting her words hang in the air. We were wrong. Whispers rippled through the crowd. The nobles looked at each other in shock. A queen admitting she was wrong? It was unheard of. This human, Isara continued, pointing at Tae-ho, did not ask for this duty. He did not want to be here. He was sent far from his home, far from his people, to guard a child who threw things at his head and screamed that she hated him. A few nervous laughs came from the crowd. Vela's cheeks turned slightly purple with embarrassment. But he did not complain. He did not get angry. He sat outside my daughter's door for days, waiting with a patience that most Novans could not match. When she was scared, he sang to her. When she was lonely, he kept her company. When she gave him a bracelet that meant family, he put it on and never took it off. Izara stepped down from her throne. This alone caused gasps in the crowd. A Novan monarch never left the elevated platform. It was tradition. It was law. But Isara did not care about tradition today. She walked down the steps until she stood directly in front of Tae-ho. He looked up at her, his face showing nothing. But inside, His heart was pounding. "And then," Isara said, her voice growing harder, "when assassins came for my daughter, this human did not run. He did not hide. He fought 6 professional killers with nothing but a decorative blade. He took wounds that should have killed him. He bled out on the floor, holding my daughter in his arms, refusing to die because she told him not to." The room was completely silent now. Even the whispers had stopped. "My doctors told me he should be dead. His heart stopped twice. His blood loss was too great for survival. But he lived. He lived because he had something to live for." Isara looked down at Tai-Ho with something like respect. "He lived for a little girl who threw crystals at his head." Vela made a small sound, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "Humans live short lives," Isara continued. "Compared to us, they are here and gone like sparks from a fire. We thought this made them lesser, disposable. But I have learned something these past months. I have learned that because humans live short lives, they love harder than we do. They protect fiercer than we do. They give everything they have to the people they care about, because they know they do not have forever." She turned to face the crowd. "We should not pity humans for their short lives. We should envy them, because they know what truly matters, and they do not waste a single moment." She turned back to Tai-Ho. "Kang Tai-Ho, your people want you to return to Earth. Your military says your assignment is over. I am here to tell you that I refuse to allow it." Tai-Ho's eyes widened. "Your Majesty?" "I am not keeping you as a prisoner," Isara said. "I am not ordering you to stay. I am offering you a choice." She raised her voice so everyone could hear. "I offer you the position of Royal Guardian to the Crown Princess, a title no human has ever held. You will have full rights as a member of the imperial household. You will be treated as family by law and by tradition." The nobles erupted in protest. "This is madness," one shouted. "A human in the imperial household. It cannot be done." Isara turned to look at him. Her eyes were like ice. "I am the queen. I decide what can and cannot be done. Anyone who disagrees is welcome to challenge me." The noble went pale and stepped back. Isara turned back to Tai-Ho. "This is your choice. You can return to Earth with honor. No one will think less of you. Or you can stay here, as my daughter's guardian, as part of our family." She paused. "What do you choose?" Tai-Ho looked at the queen. Then he looked at Vela. She was staring at him with her big golden eyes, tears streaming down her face. She did not say anything. She did not beg. She just looked at him, waiting. He thought about Earth, his home, his mother, who still lived in their small village, his brother's grave, which he visited every year on the anniversary of his death. Then he thought about Vela, the little girl who had taught him Novan words and laughed at his pronunciation, the little girl who had given him a bracelet and called him family, the little girl who had stayed by his bed for 8 days, refusing to eat or sleep, waiting for him to wake up. He thought about what his brother would say if he could see him now. He knew the answer. Tai-Ho looked up at the queen. "I choose to stay." Vela's face broke into the biggest smile he had ever seen. She ran down the steps and threw herself into his arms. He caught her, ignoring the pain in his wounds. "You are staying," she whispered into his shoulder. "You are really staying." "Yes," he said. His voice was thick. "I am staying. I am not going anywhere." Queen Isara watched them with an unreadable expression. Then, slowly, she reached into her robe and pulled out a small metal object. It was a Novan honor mark, a symbol given only to members of the royal family. She walked to Tai-Ho and pressed the mark against his chest. There was a brief flash of light. And when she pulled her hand away, the mark was embedded in his skin, glowing softly with golden light. "You are now part of our family," she said, "by law and by blood. No one can take you from us. No one can deny your place." The crowd was silent. The nobles did not protest. They could not. The queen had spoken. It was done. Commander Yoon Hana stepped forward from the Earth delegation. Everyone tensed, waiting to see how she would react. Hana looked at Tai-Ho for a long moment. Then she smiled. "Well," she said, "I guess I need to file a lot of paperwork. Earth just lost its best soldier." She looked at Vela, still in Tai-Ho's arms. "But I think he ended up exactly where he belongs." Tai-Ho smiled back at her. "Thank you, Commander." "Do not thank me. Just be happy. That is an order." "Yes, ma'am." The ceremony ended. The crowds slowly left the throne room, but Tai-Ho stayed where he was, holding Vela, feeling the warm pulse of the honor mark on his chest. He thought about his brother. He thought about the guilt he had carried for 3 years. He thought about all the times he had wished he could go back and change things. He could not change the past. He could not save his brother. That pain would always be with him. But he had saved Vela. He had found a new purpose. He had found a new family. And somewhere he hoped his brother was watching, smiling, telling him it was okay to be happy again. That night, Tai-Ho stood on the palace balcony, looking up at the purple sky. Vela stood next to him, her small hand in his. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "My brother, my home, everything." "Do you miss Earth?" Tai-Ho thought about it. "Sometimes, but I think home is not always a place. Sometimes home is a person." Vela squeezed his hand. "Then I am glad I am your home." He looked down at her and smiled. "Me too." They stood there together, watching the stars come out, one by one, filling the alien sky with light. And for the first time in 3 years, Kang Tai-Ho felt at peace. He had guarded an alien child. Now he was part of an alien family, and he would not change it for anything in the universe.